Hello and welcome, Gila Nehemia. Welcome to this special Life After Trauma Ask the Author series.
Thank you so much, Andrea, for having me today.
It's awesome to connect with you. I know right now you're in India, I'm in France, but thanks to the internet, we can be connected no matter where we are.
Yes.
Well, you have had quite an interesting last several years in terms of your life. And I mean, the adventure is still going on like right now. But you know what? Your story is very, very different from anybody else's story in this book. But like every other one of these chapters, your chapter really does show us that there is a happy life waiting for us after trauma, and even juicier than we might have ever imagined our lives could be. Right?
Right, that's to say it mildly.
So let's get into it. You know, one of the things that I always find so remarkable and that I truly admire about your story is that you, Gila, you went through a really traumatic experience in your marriage. There were highs and lows and emotional abuse and other types of abuse. And yet, you're able to now recognize that you too, as souls, came together for each of you has your own aspect. We won't talk about him, but we can talk about what you have learned about your soul's journey and stepping up and being able to speak up for yourself. So, tell me about that.
It was quite a challenging experience, to be honest. I think that most of my life I have been quiet. I have suppressed feelings, words, emotions, even actions, trying to please. That's kind of how, at least I felt I was being brought up. I don't want to put anything upon anyone else, but that was my own feeling. Yeah. And I tried, to be the good girl, to kind of play both sides. And, when my previous husband passed away, and then I realized all of the things I was suppressing, and actually the breakthrough happened for me was when I saw my own children. And I said to myself, I want my children to have a really amazing life. Yeah. And the only way that was going to happen is if I took responsibility for what the actions that I had taken.
Yeah.
And to see it from a different perspective.
Yeah. That is so powerful, because we as moms, men do it too, but we as moms, we often do think, oh, I've got to do everything for my kids, so I'm going to suck it up, put my needs last, or squash them. And when you have that awakening, when you realize, if I'm not living at my true best and honoring who I really am, then I'm teaching them that, oh, that's how you can treat a woman, or that's how you can, these are the limits that you have in life. You have to, So I think that is such a powerful recognition you had.
Yes, I think, and many times in that, especially the beginning part of that journey, I would ask my coach at the time, I'm like, my kids want me to be at home. I want to go out, like I had a conflict. I left anyway. And I would, tell her this angst. And she was like, well, you really need to put yourself first all the time, because then you are the example for them. You're actually the physical example, and I have to tell you, it's been like almost a year and a half from that particular moment that I shared with her. And my kids have really changed, with me. They've transformed with me, and it's been the most beautiful gift that I have received so far.
Yeah, that is so powerful. So your chapter, let's just go there. I'll be honest with you, one of the things that inspired me to do this particular book was 2 books ago of mine. I did a book, as you know, The Orgasm Prescription for Women, which is what brought us together for summits and things. And when I was doing interviews with people around the world, the number one thing that held people back from really fully experiencing orgasmic bliss in their relationships, inside the bed and outside, was not healing from past trauma and not being able to get into the present, that even if they had been to therapy and things in the past were now gone, or maybe they even had new relationships, they still couldn't feel that blossoming of love for self and love for other. So that you had an erotic awakening is exactly why I wanted to do this book, to show people that you can heal even from the most, sad and traumatic experiences. So let's just go there a little bit, because your erotic awakening has not just been a sexual awakening, but it has been a true spiritual awakening that has led you and now your whole life, your business and your children on a whole new path. So talk to me about that.
So I'll actually, really, it began from desire. From a young age, from about 8 years old or whatever, I had this desire. To be honest, to be really open, I learned to masturbate with one of my friends. We were just like hanging out together. She was like, "Oh yeah, let's do this." And I'm like, "Okay," and it felt really good. And I used to have these moments, of just being in this type of, I don't know how to describe it, but just this feeling that there was something else, and throughout all my different relationships, I never reached that point. And so I just used to shelve it and be like, okay, well, I'm never reaching that point. It's just something, I just have with myself, and then I live in the real world. It's like a fantasy. So I continue that, and I actually, one of my big points in my own work is self-pleasure, really in everything, not just sexually, but in all parts of your life. And when I decided to change my life, I decided to change my mindset, and I said to myself, okay, maybe there is something out there. Maybe I could possibly fulfill that desire. And the first thing that happened to me was, being with somebody who logically didn't seem to make sense. But I decided to take that leap of faith. And lo and behold, everything changed from that erotic experience that is to be described in my chapter.
Yeah.
It was really just going after my deepest desire.
Yeah.
that actually propelled me forward.
So I find this so fascinating, because desire and pleasure is something that, especially once you do start to get on a spiritual path, it presents this conundrum, like, am I supposed to have sensual pleasure in this life, or am I supposed to be this chaste individual? And so what's interesting to me is that your previous husband, he had passed away. People will read about that from his cancer. So you're a free woman. You decide to get out there into the dating world, and you allowed yourself to date this younger person. What's interesting to me about that is that so many people that I talk to, especially women, they get to this point where they're either divorced or whatever, and they're saying, I want to get back in the dating world, but now I'm supposed to be a responsible adult, so I should date someone my age, or maybe a little older, but never younger. But you allowed yourself to go there, and that has been a catalyst for so many things for you. And not just sexually, but you also mention in your chapter of the book that you then were able to just explore so much that even being on retreat, you had this experience where you had a visit, right? A channeled visit from your husband who passed on. And he was not only, giving you permission, but was saying, this is what you need to do. So tell me a little bit about that mystical aspect to this.
That was actually really, that was a little surprising. I had gone to this retreat in Spain, and it was actually after I had, my lover and I had this relationship, and we were in a fight. And so I had, I was just on my own, and I was, just feeling the feels, like everyone knows what that feels like. And just not really sure, just really being in question of what am I doing? Is this really what I think it is? And I went to this healer at this retreat. It was a women's retreat, for goddesses, and it was small and a beautiful place in Spain, the south of Spain. And so she channeled this message, and just basically the idea was that he wanted me always to just be me. He wanted me to be in my power, because then it would allow him to be in his power.
Wow.
And that blew my mind. And I was like, wow, really, that's all I ever wanted.
Wow. And I love how you say that he wanted you to be in your power, not just in the past, like saying, oh, in our relationship, but saying, look, I need you to move on so that my soul can move on. It's almost this concept of these soul contracts that maybe we get into on another plane of existence. And it's like one soul saying to the other, come on now, learn this lesson so we can both move on. Right?
Right, exactly. And it was just, it was otherworldly, like it was, she was channeling, and it was just something really not that I would experience on an everyday level, but it made sense to me, and actually part of my whole journey is that I believe everything happens for a reason. I believe that even the pain that I suffered at the time that seemed like intolerable, I have to tell you, the joy that I've had is also, amazingly blissful. And I'm not trying to say anything about anybody else's life, but that has been my own experience, that anyone who is going through something and struggling right now, just allow it to occur and allow yourself what I felt. And looking back in the past, is if I had trusted my intuition more, like I'm doing right now, things might have been different. So that is what I'm teaching my children to do. And that, I feel, is a lesson that I have learned throughout the entire experience.
Wow. That's powerful. And the other thing that you're now teaching people to do is to use writing as a process of healing. I'm a big believer in that. I believe that we should journal, even if we don't ever plan on publishing it. There's something that happens, and for me in particular, when you're using pen and paper or pencil, there's something that happens to liberate those emotions and to give you that perspective that can kind of give you the opportunity to heal. So tell me a little bit more about Wild Writers Heal and the types of writing workshops that you're helping people get past their trauma through.
So Wild Writers Heal is my company name, and I use writing as a medium of healing. So what I have done with some of my clients is allow them, like I'll give them a writing prompt, for example, and knowing some of what pains them, it will allow them to just not use their logic, but allow their intuition to guide them to release. Because I feel in my own journey, part of my challenges has not only been the actual presentation of a situation between another person and myself, but also eons and generations of oppression.
Yeah.
And we are called, or I am called, to release that, because for humanity and also for our children.
Yeah.
So I use writing as a medium to begin that process of letting that go, and other things as well. But I feel like writing for me is so powerful, and can sometimes be channeled, from the divine to help others and heal others.
I'm in 100% agreement. And I love that part of your own personal writing is erotic poetry. How does that feel for you, to have that kind of energy running through you into the pen and paper?
It's totally empowering. That's part of why that's my mission. Really, it's about erotic desire being a sacred, opening up your sacredness. And that is just, it's channeled, and it's, it really, I can't even put words to it sometimes, but it just allows you to be in your goddess state. Every woman has a goddess and queen in them, and you can arouse that. And that is your power, and each and every one of us have a different power. But once we are in that powerful state, really, we are limitless.
Let that sink in. I love that. I love that you're giving us this perspective that the generational oppression, suppression, whether you want to look at it as our ancestors, past lifetimes, or just what we've done to ourselves or society or others have done to us in this lifetime, we can take this stand in the present moment to move forward. I love it. I absolutely love it. Well, Gila, it's such a pleasure to connect with you. And I once again just really want to honor you for your courage in sharing so openly your experiences, how you've overcome the trauma, and how you're living just this very juicy, delicious life, and empowering other women to get to that same place of confidence and healing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrea, for even giving me this opportunity to share this with the world. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I love it. Believe me, I do. And I know that we'll probably have many more opportunities to collaborate in the future in many ways. So I thank you so much again for being here.
Much love. Thank you.
So please check out Gila Nehemia's work. Visit wildwritersheal.com. And of course, you can visit us online at myliferewritten.com so that you can read all the author bios and see more interviews. Did you enjoy that interview? A little different, huh? Well, I sincerely hope that you did. Please support the author by getting a copy of the book and connect with all of the authors online. They are so generous with their love and their time and their inspiration. If you know someone else who needs a little inspiration and a little tiptoe of faith to know that they are stronger than they really think that they are, then please share this video and the book with them. If you or somebody you know has a story of overcoming trauma and really thriving in resilience, then please check out our publishing options at makeyourmarkglobal.com, and we just might feature you and your story in one of our upcoming books. Until next time, my friend, please know that you are a gift to this world. So share your presence with passion. Much love. Bye.